No one wants their game to get a 7, but it's our belief that anything placed in this critical classification is still worth checking out. These games aren't as great as an 8 or as divine as a 9, but they deserve your attention if you know what type of player you are. We went back and looked at all the games we reviewed on GT that settled in the 7s, and picked our group favorites, the ones that still hold up months or years later. We're not changing these scores or contradicting anyone's prior opinions. We're just rooting for the underdogs.
This time, you're going to see it all.
While it's true that Wind Waker still suffers from pacing issues, missing dungeons, and a nearly unforgivable Triforce fetch quest, what remains is a faithful HD remake that adapts to fit the Wii U perfectly. The beautiful vistas feel inspiring, and the controls are some of the most solid for aiming and combat that we've seen from any Zelda game. Story moments are rare, scattered far and wide through the game, but the ones we get are dramatic and memorable. Wind Waker HD is the type of project we'd like to see more of on the Wii U. Since we're 5 years from its release, let's take a moment to remember what Transformers War for Cybertron is. A slightly grim Gears of Warsian take on a beloved animated series that was created to sell toys, published by Activision. It smelled like a 7 from the start, but we had no idea just how juicy this 7 would be. War for Cybertron works. It's fun to be a Transformer and to transform and shoot things. Sure, it looks a little grody, but the game deserves our eternal respect for allowing us to play as the Decepticons for half of the campaign.
Omega Supreme, enemy status, terminated.
Earth Defense Force 2017 is an easy game to dismiss. It's ugly, sluggish, and incredibly basic. Colossal ants, spiders, robots, and more invade Earth, and it's up to you to kill every last one of them. What makes EDF work is that it wholly embraces what it is, turning its simplicity into a point of pride. Entire buildings collapse with just a few hits, corpses flop everywhere after death, and the tongue-in-cheek dialogue only enhances the ridiculousness. When played split-screen with a buddy, the game offers some of the most lighthearted, gleefully mindless entertainment available. It may not win any awards, but EDF is a great reminder that sometimes video games don't have to be anything other than a whole lot of fun. This year's trip into the post-apocalyptic world of the man they call Max is not as elaborate as other open-world masterpieces we've played recently, but it doesn't have to be. The emptiness of the desert landscape and the repetitiveness of having to scavenge for every scrap of supplies might not make Mad Max an 8, but these elements fit the protagonist's lifestyle surprisingly well. We had a blast upgrading our vehicle and ripping our opponents to pieces. It won't be battling to be one of the best games of the year, but Mad Max is a fun ride.
Bon voyage!
X-Men Origins is the rare instance where the video game is better than the film it's based on. Wolverine fans finally got a taste of the blood and gore that's suspiciously absent from the silver screen representations of the titular character. Brutal combat in the vein of God of War is at its forefront, with brutal dismemberments and Logan's signature berserker rage. Leveling up moves with XP drives us to continue the rampage through hordes of baddies, which helps sustain the freshness of combat all the way to the last decapitation.
Don't tell him I'm working on it. I want it to be a surprise.
Sunset Overdrive is a wacky open-world game where you fight deformed creatures and scale a colorful city full of character. The gameplay takes elements like grinding from Jet Set Radio, parkour from Mirror's Edge, and insane weapon design from Ratchet & Clank, and blends them into a wonderful cacophony of craziness. The story and cast carry this theme of madness into tasks like fighting monsters for a group of LARPers, or teaming up with Day of the Dead-inspired cheerleaders. Sunset Overdrive is a fun and fresh take on open-world games that doesn't take itself too seriously, and that's a rare thing.
I have to let go now.
I don't want to die. Where's Catherine?
Catherine.
A game unlike any other, Catherine manages to take the simple mechanic of rearranging giant blocks and ascending towers and keeps it engaging, raising the stakes level after level. Meanwhile, the game's weird, creepy narrative sparks a paranoia that makes us question everything we thought we knew about love, commitment, and relationships in general. If you're wondering if you and your significant other are in it for the long haul, we suggest playing Catherine together. You might not like what you learn, though.
You're not really gonna try and play dumb now, are you? After all you've done to my body, night after night?
Mafia 2 was the victim of false expectations. Fans and critics were expecting an open world with side quests and radio towers, but were shocked to find that there really wasn't much to do outside of the main story. This is unfortunate because the open world complemented the linear story handsomely. This is a game about a man named Vito Scaletta, a war veteran who becomes caught up with the Mafia because of his father's debts. The linear design helps keep the story moving without ever getting bogged down by meaningless side tasks. Beautiful environments, an authentic soundtrack, and likable characters make Mafia 2 one of our fondest examples of refined storytelling in games.
This wasn't how I imagined it when we were starting out. I dreamed of money, cars, women, respect, freedom. I guess I ended up getting all that, more or less.
The pace of Alien Isolation seemed to hurt it more than anything else, despite the fact that the game's environments are absolutely gorgeous, and the hunt or be hunted gameplay is unlike anything else you'll find this generation. Whether it lived up to your expectations or not, Isolation treats the Alien franchise with more respect than most games released under that name. If you're willing to fight your way through its ups and downs, Isolation will treat you to a unique tale of horrific survival.
So long as you don't get in the way of me killing Nazis, we'll see eye to eye.
The New Order perfectly captures what makes Wolfenstein such a monumental series, nailing the blistering combat, over-the-top enemies, and distinct humor. At the same time, the game doesn't feel like a retread that's afraid of pushing in the wrong direction. It offers a surprisingly good story, plenty of options during combat, and fantastic levels, particularly the lunar base. For a game that primarily revolves around brutally killing Nazis, the level of detail is above and beyond what you would expect, making the New Order a worthy successor to the Wolfenstein legacy. This week, Kyle Bossman analyzes whether Yokai Watch is better than his beloved Pokemon, and we strap on our seatbelts to review the reboot of Need for Speed. We'll see you next week for another GT Countdown.